I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Okay, sports dad, what is your panic level? I see a lot of,
I'm off the bandwagon.
Panic.
Let me off this bandwagon. Pull this bandwagon over. I gotta get off. I'm claustrophobic. Get off.
I see a lot of panic on Wolves Twitter. So we'll get into the game last night, the opener, and then the Rudy Gobert contract news as well. Deep breaths. Let's talk about Element Hotel here. If you're looking for a calm, relaxing place, stress-free, to calm your Wolves' anxieties, just steps away from Target Center. Maybe you're coming in from out of town for a Wolves game. Maybe you're in town. You're just looking for a fun weekend with friends, family, the gal, the guy, whatever it is. Element Hotel just steps from Target Center and Target Field, a Marriott Bonvoy hotel for points purposes. It's right on the light rail. It's very walkable to some of the downtown Minneapolis fine and popular bars and restaurants. Parking garage attached on site. Super convenient, bright natural lighting throughout the entire place with great city views as well. And free breakfast that includes breakfast tacos, avocado toast, sweet potato hash.
Love avocado toast.
Talk dirty.
Oh, man.
Element Hotel just down the street from Target Center and Target Field. You can find out more at scorenorth.com/element. That's scorenorth.com/element. So, the Wolves lost in Los Angeles last night.
They didn't just lose. They didn't just lose. They lost me as a fan forever now.
What was your biggest takeaway, I guess, watching that basketball game? Your biggest thought?
Well, I have two. One is one of the problems, eminently fixable. And it was a very hockey thing. Questionable effort.
Yeah.
Do I think that that's a problem? No. Do I think that can be fixed by Thursday? Absolutely. And so I get it. So I get the frustration. The Lakers probably came out slugging more than the Wolves expected, but that's still the Wolves' fault. Chris Finch was pissed off. You could definitely tell. So, yeah. But the other thing is, and, as you said on Mackey and Judd, write that down. The Knicks experienced this too. Like, you don't make a trade as significant as the Cat and then obviously DiVincenzo and Julius come back here. You don't make a trade that big and just have it be flawless. Randle hadn't played since January. He had played in one preseason game against the Bulls.
Yeah.
The Wolves looked like a team that didn't know each other yet. This is going to take a little bit of time, folks. This is going to take a little bit of time. Now, would I have liked to seen Randle apply himself more? Like, I've seen him play games at full strength, and he can be really good. Like, he's physical. He took some plays off last night. Perhaps he was tired. Perhaps he just didn't. I don't know. But anyway, long story short, two takeaways. One, the effort was an issue. I don't think that's I don't think that's any type of problem that's going to continue. But the adjustment period, Phil, it's not going to just come on Thursday night. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean,
yes.
A key component to how they ran their offense is gone. Randle, the ball did get sticky. I mean, the ball just got sticky at times. That was a problem early last year. These seasons are very, very long for a reason. It can take time to define yourself.
Yeah, I want to come back to the how long is it going to take thing, because I actually have an anecdote or two on that. Positive sure. Phil is going to bring you some perspective on that. But yeah, it kind of looked like energy-wise or effort-wise, the Wolves were just playing in slow motion at times, or it was almost like a preseason game where they were just kind of clowning around. And then in the last 5 or 8 minutes, you saw like, oh, this is closer to the playoff level intensity where it's just full on diving for loose balls, flying to the rim. But it felt really low energy and weird for 40 minutes. And it wasn't lost on key players and Chris Finch after the game. So I'm Chris Hine from the Star Tribune, Johnny K from The Athletic, picking up some of these quotes. Anthony Edwards said, "We weren't ready to play." So I agree with Finchy on that part. We came out too relaxed, like people respect us. We got to bring more. Sacramento, we will be better. Chris Finch said, "The season has started and we didn't answer the bell."
Right. Yeah.
He said the same thing after the first game of the Western Conference Finals, right? I think it was Western Conference Finals where he was like, the Western Conference Finals started. And
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I forgot. Yes,
we haven't
yes,
joined
he did.
yet.
Yes, he did.
And then Rudy Gobert said, quote, one of the reasons we were so good last year, we were the most hungry team almost every night. We got to find that. So on one hand, why are you not hungry and ready to go absolutely destroy a Lakers team that, by the way,
Not good.
the Lakers were more interested in the egocentric vanity ceremony of putting Bronny James on the court with his father for a photo op for 5 minutes. If I'm Finch, if I'm Anthony Edwards, if I'm DiVincenzo, all these guys, Julius Randle, I am offended by the notion that you would think that you're playing us, dude. Like we are a championship contender, a Western Conference Finals team, and you're going to ceremonially do a photo op for 5 minutes and do the father-son thing, which completely unwarranted. Like let the dude earn his way to the NBA. And, of course, the Wolves run off a 5-0 run right off the bat, and they call timeout, get him out of the game. It was like a 3-minute thing. But, like, take it personally. You're going into Los Angeles, all the pomp and circumstance, and they just sort of let it happen to them until late in the game. So, on one hand, I was offended by the effort and the energy. It drove me nuts. But on the other hand, you don't just introduce two brand new pieces that it wasn't like you traded for these guys back in July even where you had a full training camp. Julius Randle played his first preseason game and then boom, the season starts. So it's going to take some time. It took time when Rudy Gobert came in a couple years ago. But the example I want to give you is back in 2003, 2004, which is either the best or second best season in franchise history, depending on which Western Conference Finals run you want to latch onto. Mm-hmm. And the Wolves made the blockbuster acquisitions of Latrell Sprewell and Sam Cassell. Okay, we're bringing two key pieces in with Kevin Garnett. We're going to mold this thing together. Mm-hmm. And not only did they start the season, I believe it was 9-8. Yeah, they were 9-8 through the first month and change. So they were just a middling 500 basketball team. Their first road game was at the Nets. And the Wolves scored 61 points in their first road game that season. They got beat 84-61, and it was a lower scoring NBA in that time.
Check-in, just physical as hell.
They scored 10 points in the first quarter of that first road game, and 9 points in the fourth quarter of that first road game. Yep. Latrell Sprewell went 4 for 18 for 9 points and 4 turnovers. And Sam Cassell went 2 for 10 with 8 points and 7 combined fouls and turnovers. And it was embarrassing. And it was like, oh my gosh, is Sam Cassell washed up? Is this going to be a fit? Uh-huh. You give him a month to figure things out, get a smart coach to put the pieces together. So Positive Phil is here to say, and the Raptors game to start the year last year and the Hawks game too, two disasters.
The Hawks game was offensive last year.
It's going to take
no show. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to take a month or two before, and I know that you don't want to hear that as fans, but it's going to take some time, so kick back and let's just see what happens.
It also does not mean that you're going to lose every single night. Like that's the thing is, there were things last night that are either fixable and or just are not going to repeat themselves. I mean, Mike Conley, that's probably as bad a game as I've seen him play with the Wolves. So unless you think he's just during the summer gone off the cliff completely, he's going to rebound. He'll be fine. Now we could talk about the use of the bench because that's where Finch, when you have a team that basically is I don't know if going through the motions is the right word for last night, but it certainly seemed they weren't checked in. You've got some nice young talent that I might have tried to use. I'm a little bit surprised with how, especially because his post-game reaction was very apropos, a little bit surprised that Finchy didn't say, you know what, if you guys don't want to work hard, I got guys that do. So that did surprise me a bit. And there are young players, Phil, that I would like to see at least, especially in a situation like that, get their chance.
What show was it on? Was it on the scoop session on Mackey and Judd, or was it on Flagrant Howls this week where we literally had a discussion about how hard it's going to be? You've got 12 or 13 guys that probably deserve playing time
too, because Royce's too much talent.
Yeah. How are you gonna find minutes for How are you going to pare it down to like 10 guys, right?
Right.
And in the first game of the season, Finch says, well, we're going to play 8 guys. And then for the 9th guy, we're going to run Joe Ingles out there for like 1 shift or maybe a shift and a half.
Yeah.
And so you wind up with Josh Minott, DNP coach's decision, Luka Garza, DNP CD, Terrence Shannon Jr., and Rob Dillingham, both your first-round picks, all of them DNP CDs. So that's going to be something. Finch has a little Tom Thibodeau in him in that regard, that he only trusts a certain number of players, but you're going to have to take some chances for 5-8 minutes here and there on some of these young guys. Energy, everything. And to your point, like if part of the problem is energy or just lack of getting up and down, well, why don't you throw a dude in there who's desperate to make a name for himself in a Josh Minott and see what happens for 7 minutes? Especially like if Joe Ingles is going to be out there for 7 minutes and get 1 shot off. Okay, I mean, you can sit Joe Ingles for a couple weeks and he's going to be fine. Like he's a veteran. Let's see what you got in Terrence Shannon Jr. in a game like that.
And last night seemed perfect, right? Like it's like, okay, it's opening night, one of 2 games. So like it's a special night on TNT. Your team shows up and they're like, yeah, and they're sort of like, they're lollygagging out there. You're a bunch of lollygaggers. That seems to me to be a perfect time to say, hey, Terrence Shannon Jr., let's see what you got. Because if nothing else, it's a credible threat. Like if he comes and plays well, guys are going to. So from Finch's perspective, that did surprise me. Now, if they had been playing pretty well and it's a close game and they lose, then I'm not shocked. But that's the one thing from Finch last night, because it's like he gets pissed off. It's like, okay, dude, if you're pissed off now, you've got, to a certain extent, a hammer to drop. Drop the hammer. See what happens.
Yeah. They're also, in fairness, like they're trying to figure out which lineup combinations with their main core guys even work. Like they don't have any data points on.
Right.
There was shout out to Charlie Walton throwing this out on Twitter. Charlie Walton MN. The lineup so it was Edwards at the 2. Naz Reid at the 4, and then Julius Randle at the 5 turned out to be one of the most positive net rating lineups of the night for the Wolves. So that lineup was out. Those 3 guys at those 3 spots out there for 9 minutes and 13 seconds. They outscored the Lakers 26-15 over that stretch, and they were 10 of 22 from the floor, holding LA to 4 of 13 from the floor. So there's definitely some positives mixed in and some interesting trends like that, but this is going to be a feeling out process for several games.
That game was a disaster. It's the biggest disaster in Wolves history. Nothing ever's gone that wrong. Nothing's ever gone that wrong.
Yeah.
I will say this from the Lakers' perspective, because they're not that good a team. Like, they're just not.
Anthony Davis is ridiculous.
I was just going to say, if Anthony Davis decides to show up, the Lakers can win games.
And he kind of cooks Rudy historically. Like, it's not a great matchup for
Rudy. But that
Rudy.
performance, like that was, just from a fan perspective, to take away your allegiance.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a performance.
It was, Anthony Davis. It's funny because, like, all the headlines are about, we got the Griffies are in the front row to watch LeBron and Bronny. It's like, it's all just, don't ever compare LeBron and Bronny in this current incarnation to Ken Griffey Sr., who is a great player, and Ken Griffey Jr., who's like a top 50 player ever.
Correct.
The whole thing, I don't know, man. Am I just being like a curmudgeon?
No.
It's weird.
No, it's completely manipulated by LeBron. I mean, the kid shouldn't be there. If his name was any other, if his name was anything, if it was Smith, Anderson, he wouldn't be there. It's not like he's a fringe. Well, he's good enough to play. Like, they literally had to orchestrate a brief period of time to do this stunt and get him off, because the Wolves, I think, went on a 7-2 run.
And if the Wolves the Wolves took a couple of bad shots too in transition. It was a 5-0 run because Bronny was a -5. It should have been like a 9-0 run if the Wolves hadn't gotten a couple bad shots off in transition. But like JJ Redick kind of said, all right, we're good, you guys.
It was a power play.
Look over at the photographer. You guys get the photos you need over here? You guys over there? You good? Okay. Family?
It was a power play. Like Bronny was, it was like the Lakers played with 4.
Yeah, they just kind of,
but it's right, manipulated. Dude. It's not fun, and it's not, and I get it, and it's painful too, because the TNT folks are clearly in bed with LeBron. So they're trying to be like, Bronny is so focused on becoming the best player that he can be and working on his defense constantly. And it's like, how many guys that try.
So is Luka Garza.
Well, right. And I was going to say, how many guys on their couches or in the G League who have spent their life trying to accomplish this, who are better than Bronny, are like, I got no chance. And this kid, because of his last name, is on that floor. And LeBron said post game, I forget what the exact figure is, but he's like, there's only like, I don't know, X amount of us, 300s or 250 or something in this league. And,
it's like 400. Yeah.
Okay. 400, whatever it is. And he's like, I tell him to appreciate this. He doesn't belong in the league.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it's really cool. It's just it was forced, man. It was a 100% staged play that the Timberwolves probably didn't take full advantage of. It was a weird distraction.
And the Griffies, you're so right about that. Like, here are two of the just great ball players. I mean, yeah, there have been father-son things that have been really, really cool and honest. This one is not. Yeah. And quite frankly, again, I mean, what LeBron is doing at his age is fantastic. But I mean, the takeaway that I had, Lakers perspective last night, Anthony Davis, when he wants to be, as a monster.
Yep. You touched on the Conley thing before. Let's just one more thing from the game, and then we can let's talk about Julius Randle too. But
sure,
I'm going to say my panic meter is a little greater than 0 on Mike Conley, because age is a thing for him. There's definitely been a couple games. He had like an 0 for 9 at one point last year. So he's had some games where, oh my gosh, dude. And then he usually bounces right back, and he wound up shooting like 40% from 3 last year. But that is the worst that he's probably looked. He only played the 20, what was the final? 20 some minutes? I guess 20 minutes. He was 1 for 7, 2 assists, 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
And he was a minus 22 in those 20 minutes. So when Mike Conley was on the floor,
yes,
the Wolves were a minus 22, and they lost by 7. So you can do the math. Like, if you were to just replace those Conley minutes with something close to break even, they win the game. Like, the Mike Conley minutes derailed that game last night. There's a bunch of other things we could point to, and missed shots and whatever. Like, Jaden McDaniels was in foul trouble and just a terrible start to the season. But on the flip side, if the answer is, well, Mike Conley's only going to have 5 games like that all year because he's Mike Conley, and that just happened to be one of them, then all right, you're in. Right. If you get a normal Mike Conley game, you probably win that game by 5 or 8 points. But I'm a little bit on Mike Conley age cliff watch after that performance last night. Just a little bit.
Well,
just a little bit.
And in fairness, on the opening day of camp, when they all did their media stuff, it was made pretty clear that they have a desire to rest him. Like if you're expecting Mike Conley 2023, 24 to walk through that door, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Like, they need to scale back there. But the other thing is, and this is like the Dillingham thing, or however you want to work this, there need to be other options.
Yeah, and DiVincenzo is effectively their backup point guard. Yeah. And he played 32 minutes off the bench. Conley played 20, and they overlapped.
And Noah was actually pretty good last night. I think Nikhil had a nice game. So
he was probably their most effective player on the court, both ends last night.
But if they expect, and I don't think that they do, if they expect Mike Conley of last year to be what they're going to get this year, that's a them problem. Like, it's not going to happen. They've got to be prepared to, and they have the people to transition. So Mike Conley is going to have to be, I think the fairest way to put it, managed at least.
On Julius Randle, so that's obviously the first regular season peak, and they had him out there for 34 minutes. I feel like I didn't really look at the box score while the game was going on. I was just watching the game and just kind of getting a feel and a flow. And man, like, Stan Van Gundy was getting on him a couple times. Just watching the game, it felt like, yeah, Randle showed some definite positive signs, and I do like some of the things he brings from an aggressiveness standpoint. He brings like this aggressiveness without all of the theatrics and hitting the floor and that's a foul, like he can get to the rack and he can even get to the free throw line. But it was very slow, which is sort of how he plays.
Yeah.
It was very low energy, and it just felt off. And again, they have several weeks to sort of figure this out. But then it's funny, you look at the box score, and it told a different story. He was 5 of 10. He led the team in free throw attempts, so get to the line, right? 5 of 7, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He had the 16 points, and he was a +2.
Yeah, which
when he was out
me.
there. They were a
That
+2 when Julius Randle was out there.
I was shocked by that.
Because if you would have said, hey, Julius Randle, in the minutes that you saw, were the Wolves a plus or a minus? I would have said, it kind of felt like a -8 or like a -10. And they were a +2 in the 34 Julius Randle minutes, which means in the 14 minutes where he was on the bench, they were a -9. Which, I don't know, it just didn't feel like that aligned with the eye test, but...
Because it didn't ever feel, I think what the eye test told you was it doesn't feel, and this is not surprising, he wasn't in the flow of what they were doing. Like he was doing his own thing, and statistically it actually worked.
Yeah.
There was one point too where Van Gundy got mad at Randall for not hustling and like blatantly just called him out, which was hilariously funny. But I think it was, and there's a few things here. One is, they are going to have to find a way to incorporate him. Like he does play a style that this was talked about from day one of the trade. He plays a style that's not necessarily conducive. Both sides are probably going to have to give a bit, right? He's going to have to come to how they play. They're probably going to have to move a little bit to how he plays. But I'll go back to, this was his first regular season game since January. So that in and of itself is going to take time. Guys don't just come back. I mean, he played one exhibition game. He got traded. And I'm not even making up excuses. I'm just saying the fact is there's 2 transitions. One is him to get back to playing basketball. 2 is him to get into the Timberwolves system.
Yeah, no, all the more reason why Positive Phil is nitpicky but not panicky.
I thought you were crazy during the Nuggets when you said they were going to come back and beat the Nuggets in the playoffs. I thought Positive Phil was off his rocker.
No.
In this one, the level of, oh my God, what a terrible opening night. Look, if we saw 2 weeks of this, okay, I'd be like, this is problematic. But it's one game. Part of it is this too. I feel like as a hockey guy, basketball fans aren't used to hockey type performances, which again goes back to lack of effort from the entire team last night. Like that's a very hockey thing, right? And like we've talked about that before. It just doesn't ordinarily show up as much, partially because the sport is individualized enough where you don't have as many players have bad nights as did last night.
Yeah, a couple other things. Yeah, a couple other things off that is like, okay, if Donte, DiVincenzo and Conley, who are 2 of the best 3-point shooters in the league, combined to go 2 for 13 from downtown.
Yeah. If
they combine to go 5 for 13, the Wolves win the game by 2. Like, I know it's not that simple, but then you could counter and say, wait a second, the Lakers were up by double digits the majority of the night in a game in which they shot 16% from 3-point range, 5 of 30. So just super weird. And oftentimes you see this type of thing. The Knicks were the first game against Boston. Boston tied the NBA record with 29 made threes. The Knicks were down by like 30 points pretty quickly in that game as they try to integrate Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges' weird new shooting motion. So it's just first game of the year.
I thought DiVincenzo in particular was pressing.
Yeah.
Like first game, Lakers, national TV game. Like Julius Randle to me seemed just flat out rusty, and he definitely is not incorporated. DiVincenzo, and what I saw of him in the preseason, like I don't think his incorporation's a problem here. I think when he is playing well, it's pretty. In fact, it adds because he moves so much. He looked to me like last night though that there was a lot of, it's my first game here, I'm going to impress, and he just pressed, which is again all the more reason not to try to make a judgment off of opening night.
Yeah. Yep. So they've got the Kings coming up tomorrow.
If they don't win that game, I'm done.
And then, it's a must win.
It's a must win against the Kings, game 2.
Let's get into the Rudy contract here as well, and that can be kind of a long-term discussion throughout the coming days. But KW Outdoor Solutions is here for those of you that may feel a little anxiety and heartburn when it comes to holiday light season. You want the holiday lights, but the idea of installation, climbing up on a ladder, right? Taking everything down, kind of a pain. Well, that's where KW Outdoor Solutions comes in. They offer design, installation, maintenance, takedown, storage. They'll do roof lines, trees, shrubs. They'll do everything. And you can choose from a variety of colors and patterns. If you want just like a single color, something simple, they can do that. If you want to go full Clark Griswold and impress the neighborhood, they've got you covered with either one of those paths. Locally owned and operated, serving the Twin Cities Metro. Learn more at kwoutdoorsolutions.com. That is kwoutdoorsolutions.com. So, news broke throughout the arena last night and then spilling out into NBA Twitter that Rudy Gobert has declined his $46.6 million player option for next year. It was the final year of his 4-year contract. Mm-hmm. And instead, they're going to replace it with a fresh multi-year extension through 2027-28. So he's got the 1 year left now on this deal, and then he will take a pay cut annually starting in 2025-26, which gives the Wolves more flexibility under the second apron luxury tax. It's a 3-year, $110 million contract extension for Rudy. Sources tell ESPN. This is Shams. He goes from being super max, almost $50 million a year, to taking a lot less as he sort of ages into his mid-30s. We kind of talked about this throughout the summer, too. I love this, man. This is great for Rudy, too, because you sit down and say, listen, man, I know you're a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and you just won another one last year, but you're aging into your 30s. You're part of something really good here. We'd love to keep the band together as much as possible, but we can't really do that if you're going to be commanding super max level money. So let's take it down a couple notches. Right. Let's make you a little bit more affordable, still rich. You're still going to get 9 figures.
You're going to do okay.
And this also gives the Wolves, I think, more leeway to, all right, if he needs to go from being like a 34-minute guy to like a 25-minute guy in some upcoming games and seasons, I think it's great for both sides. I love this deal.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things off the top of what this does now, and it looked like this was going to be difficult before, and I think now it becomes much more plausible, is because at the end of the season, Naz Reid is likely going to execute his player option and opt out. Well, this allows you to keep him. It also probably means that you're in a better position to, at least if you want to, try to keep Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So, by the way, dare I say it, payroll-wise, this is how you right-size your business. This is how you do it. Yeah. This is how you right-size your business. You go to an aging player and say, you are still going to be rich. But if you take this contract, it's going to help you be rich, and it's going to help us retain players. Yeah. So this is, yes, bravo. When Dukes talked about this, and forgive me if I didn't hear him correctly, because he's been speculating about a Gobert contract extension for months now.
Yeah.
I don't remember talking about this side of things. So at first it's like, okay, you're going to extend him, but like, okay, that's not, but I totally get it now. You basically have freed up money to get you below the second apron, which is punitive. Like, that's the thing, is the problem with that is if you are above the second apron as far as draft picks go and trades go, it's definitely punitive. So that helps. And 2, if this allows you, let's just say, to keep Naz Reid, okay, that's good. So congratulations, Wolves. You are showing your next door neighbors that right-sizing the business is possible without pissing off the entire fan base.
Yeah, so Rudy, you wind up saving like $12 or $13 million on his 2025-26 cap number. So he gives you a break there, and then in turn you give him guaranteed $110 million. Now, I think Shams also said that maybe the last year of the deal is a player option, so he maintains some flexibility.
But who knows by then?
in 27, 28. I mean, he'll be 35, 36 years old.
Yep.
But with that, so you're reducing him, and then you've got Cat off the books, and that contract was going up to like $60 million in 4 years from now. It just clears the runway for Ant to keep going up on his Supermax. Julius Randle has a player option next year for 30, but that'll be off the books. I would be pretty shocked, I guess, if they like extended him into his 30s. So he'll either exercise that and be gone after the year, or he'll say, or he'll exercise it the other way, opt in and take the $31 million. But yeah, it just gives you, like, starting next year, it gives you more freedom for a Naz Reid extension. It gives you more freedom for another acquisition if you wanted to. And it just keeps you below the second apron here. We can math this whole thing out maybe on a future episode. But man, you look at their cap sheet, and it's kind of crazy. So next year, Rudy Gobert, $34 million, even on a pay cut, $34 million. Anthony Edwards, $45.5 million. Julius Randle, $30.1 million. Jaden McDaniels, $25 million. Donte DiVincenzo, $11.9 million.
I know, it's just such a bargain.
And then $12 million the year after that. Like, it is such a great team-friendly contract. Bargain.
Yeah, the Randle thing, I'm really curious to see how that plays out, because there are parts of his game I like a lot. But I think that having that option to split is a really good thing, because you don't know.
Yep. By the way, Rudy Gobert on his contract extension said, quote, to The Athletic, "It's an amazing blessing, at the same time being able to not be too greedy and leave some on the table for our competitiveness as a team. I think that's important." So let it be known, Rudy Gobert officially took less money than he probably could have gotten on the open market. Maybe not, but like, because he wouldn't have hit the open market for another.
We could have tried to get the Wolves, though, to say, hey, I'm going to sign for this. But yeah, this is, as far as working the books, Tim Conley and his crew have done a pretty damn good job. Like,
and Glenn has greenlit the second apron on top of it, too.
But I'm just saying from the actual ramifications, if you're in, because I was going through, if you're in the second apron, there are things you simply can't do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's not any fun. Like, you want that flexibility. So I'm just saying from the equivalent of like Rob Brzezinski, the Vikings cap guy, right? Like, he's always manipulated the books really well. Feels like the Wolves are playing with the books well. And then, to Glenn's credit, he's also just now pumping tons of cash in, which is a very nice surprise, actually.
Yeah, I
don't know what got into Glenn. It's like the Grinch, man. His heart grew. His Wolves heart, his basketball heart grew.
He pumped $10 million into that new exclusive club and bar area.
Although it pays off, man. It pays off. I think what I heard was, I think they are at the most season tickets that they have sold in that building since the first season, 91. So they
more than any of the KG seasons,
and that's exactly what I thought. Like,
wow,
KG didn't sell more. So
it's too bad for all those season ticket holders that the season's over after the first game, I guess.
It's funny how you business wise make more when you spend more.
It can definitely be that way. Right sizing the business and being smart. Imagine that. Target Center. So, all right, there's your game one. Hopefully everyone takes a deep breath here. We'll see what happens against the Kings.
Might as well have been game 45, 82. The season is over. Do you go to play the Kings or just pull the plug now?
I pull the plug personally. Yeah, I don't even. I probably just, instead of trying to sell the team to Mark and Alex, I just sell the team to Vegas or Seattle at this point. It's all over.
I'd fold them.
Yeah. This is your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast, Flagrant Howls.